Shocking true story. The haunting encounter with a demonic aswang at 3 a.m. You won't believe this. The clock struck 3, and in the stillness of the night, the air grew heavy. Shadows danced against the pale walls of Sarah's room, as if mocking her growing dread. She had heard the tales whispered around campfires, the stories of the aswang, a creature that thrived in darkness, its hunger insatiable. Legends told of its ability to disguise itself, charming the unsuspecting before revealing its true, horrific form. And that night, the legend felt all too real that a chill crawled up her spine, tightening like a vice. The rustling outside her window grew louder, disturbing the peace of the moonlit night. Was it the wind, or something worse? Sarah peered through the glass and froze. A figure moved under the flickering streetlight, a shadow gliding, fluid and unnatural. The neighborhood was empty. Every house was dark. She could feel her heart races, pounding against her ribcage like it was trying to escape. What if it was real? The aswang lurking just beyond the threshold, waiting for the right moment to pounce? Was it coming for her? She sat frozen, breathless, sweat trickling down her brow despite the cool night air. Sarah's stomach churned, anxiety clawing at her throat like a desperate animal. And then she heard it, a low, guttural growl. It was a sound that seemed to vibrate in her bones, igniting a deep instinct to run. Memories of the stories flooded her mind. The aswang feasting on the souls of the unwary, the blood-curdling screams of its victims. What if she was the next one? The darkness was closing in, and time felt suspended, like the world was caught between breaths. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just then, the growling turned into a strange, mocking laughter, echoing down the empty street. Sarah's breath quickened, panic flooding her veins. She tiptoed toward the door, heart in her throat, terrified to turn her back on the window. What if the aswang was waiting for her? Would it vanish as she turned, or perhaps be right there, eyes gleaming with unholy hunger? It was a decision she had to make. In that very moment, the laughter stopped. Silence swallowed the sound, and Sarah stood there, trembling, her finger hovering over the doorknob as if it were a hot coal. The air felt charged, electric with the promise of something dreadful. She could not tell if it was too late. The shadows began to swirl around her, as though alive. And in that silence, the weight of 1,000 terrified questions hung heavy in the air. What was she about to face? Would she confront the demon that roamed just outside her door? With a deep breath, Sarah willed herself to turn the doorknob. It felt cold against her skin, sending a tremor of fear shooting up her arm. The door creaked open, revealing the dark hallway. Her pulse raced as she peered into the inky blackness beyond. Each step felt like moving through molasses, the air heavy with an unseen weight. The faintest hint of something acrid pricked her nostrils, a scent that was unmistakably wrong. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from downstairs, causing Sarah to jump back, her heart skittering in her chest. Was it just the house settling? Or was the aswang already inside? The stories had warned her it was clever and swift. Could be anywhere. Forget this, Sarah thought. She needed to get out. She dashed down the hallway toward the stairs, but as she reached the landing, she froze. The laughter returned, but now it was accompanied by an unnatural rustling, like wings flapping in the distance. A cold sweat broke out over her brow as fear clawed at her stomach, tightening it like a vice. Am I going crazy? She whispered aloud, her voice trembling. It's just a story, but deep down, she knew it was real. The stories had never felt so tangible. The chill grew colder, and she could feel the air pulling at her, as though something was trying to drag her back into the shadows. If only she could find some light, something to guide her through the suffocating darkness. Then she saw it, a flicker of light from the living room. Heart in her throat, she moved toward it. The laughter had ceased, replaced by silence so thick it felt like a shroud. Each step made her breath come in shaky bursts. Light meant safety, didn't it? As she reached the living room door, something struck her like a bolt. Why was there light? A bitter thought pricked her mind. What if it was a trick? The Aswang was known for its deceitful ways. But curiosity, it could be her salvation or her end. She hesitated, wrestling with herself. Gathering every shred of bravery, she flung the door open. The room was illuminated, bathed in silvery light from the moon outside. Everything seemed normal. The couch was untouched, the coffee table clear of clutter. Her heart began to slow, relief washing over her. Maybe it was over. But then she saw it, something shifted in the corner of her eye. It was there, lurking behind the curtains, tall and twisted. The silhouette was unmistakable. Too many stories had painted that dreadful picture in her mind. The Aswang's elongated limbs, pale skin glistening like wax, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Fear gripped her, and in that instant, she realized. The creature was not just behind the curtains but was waiting for her to move again, to make a mistake. Panic surged through her once more. She knew she had to run, yet her feet felt glued to the ground, terror anchoring her in place. Then, just as quickly, the creature's laughter returned, echoing in the room. A sinister promise that it wouldn't let her go that easily. The shadow lunged before she could think, wrathful and swift. What would she do next? Would she flee, or confront the terror before her? As the creature advanced, the air crackled with danger. A swirling vortex of panic and heartache, leaving Sarah at a crossroads that would alter her fate forever. At that moment, she made her choice. But did she make the right one? The answer loomed dangerously close, just beyond the veil of shadows. The creature surged forward, its shadowy form taking on monstrous dimensions. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out all sound but the wild beat of her own fear. In a moment of instinct, she darted to the side, her breath hitching as she barely evaded the Aswang's outstretched fingers, which grazed her shoulder. A cold chill slithered down her spine. Run! The command blared in her mind as she stumbled past the coffee table, her eyes darting toward the doorway, the only escape. Yet the Aswang's laughter filled the space, low and guttural, seeping into her bones. Where do you think you're going? It mocked, the words curling around her like a frigid wind. She tore her gaze from the creature, knowing she had to keep moving. In the split second before she bolted toward the door, Sarah stole one last glance at the thing that haunted her nightmares. Its eyes glowed, an eerie ember that illuminated the room in a sickly hue. The features of its face morphed from lurking terror to a sinister grin, revealing a row of jagged teeth, perfect for devouring hope. With adrenaline roaring in her ears, she rushed out of the living room and down the dark hallway, the floorboards creaking under her hurried footsteps. Thoughts raced through her mind. If she could just reach the front door, but what if the thing was there, waiting for her? Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. She gripped the doorknob, her fingers trembling, panic rising like bile in her throat. Twisting it open, she hesitated. The outside world was shrouded in deep night, the air heavy with the promise of danger. What lay beyond that threshold? Freedom? Or another trick? The laughter echoed louder, reverberating off the walls. She swallowed hard, shoving the fear aside. There was no time to think. The Aswang was right behind her. Just as she began to step outside, a sharp gust swept through the hallway, sending a horrific chill racing up her arms. It felt as if the air itself screamed for her return. But she wouldn't allow it. Sarah flung herself through the doorway, landing hard on the porch, the rough wood biting into her palms. She scrambled to her feet, ready to run, but the night air seemed to thicken, pulling at her, dragging her back into the suffocating darkness inside. No, she gasped, forcing herself forward. But the light from the moon was no longer comforting. It felt like a spotlight exposing her fear. She sprinted down the steps, barely aware of her surroundings. Her mind locked on one goal put distance between herself and that abomination. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, she tripped over something small and hard, and the world tilted. She landed on her hands and knees, the wood splintering against her skin. Panic surged as she quickly tried to push herself up, but there was no time. With a sickening thud, she felt a pressure at her back, an icy breath that sent shockwaves of dread through her entire body. The Aswang had followed her outside. "Did you think you could escape?" It whispered into her ear, its voice slithering like smoke. Sarah's blood ran cold. As she turned to face the monster, her brain raced with desperation. What could she do? She needed a weapon, something, anything to fight against this nightmare. Thoughts whirled, but every possible escape seemed just out of reach as the creature leaned closer. She felt its putrid breath against her cheek, the warmth of its malice creeping into her very soul. That was when she noticed it, a glimmer, a flash of silver at the corner of the porch. Was it hope or another trap? With a surge of bravery, Sarah lunged toward it, ignoring the insidious voice behind her that promised her doom. Time seemed to slow as she reached for the light, praying it held the power to save her, to end this terror once and for all. What lay in her grasp? Would it be salvation or destruction? The moment was strikingly close, and as she prepared to brandish her newfound weapon, the darkness around her felt ready to engulf her entirely. The cold metal wrapped around her fingers, the fleeting light glinting as she grabbed the object from the porch. A small silver knife. Not much, but in this moment it felt like a lifeline. The Aswang's breath turned sharp as it registered her movement, its rancid smell curling into her nostrils. "Foolish girl," it snarled, teeth glimmering like daggers. "Do you really think you can hurt me?" Sarah tightened her grip on the handle, heart racing. "I'll do whatever it takes," she shouted, defiance sparking in her chest as she struggled to rise to her feet. With a burst of adrenaline, she swung the blade toward the creature. The motion was clumsy, fueled by fear rather than skill, but it caught the corner of the Aswang's arm, blackened, blood-thick and oozing splatters onto her face. It screeched, the sound echoing in an ear-splitting crescendo, producing an odd melody of rage and surprise. Pain? It recoiled, but a second later, its expression twisted into a grimace of furious delight. "You've only angered me now." Sarah didn't wait to see its next move. She dashed off the porch, the knife still in hand, every step an urgent echo against the wooden floorboards. The Aswang was fast, but with every heartbeat, the distance between them lessened. She could hear its guttural breathing now, feel the shadow it cast behind her like a black cloud. "Why do you run?" it taunted, gleeful malice dripping from every syllable. "You have only delayed the inevitable." "Shut up," she yelled back, battling the desperate grip of despair clawing at her mind. She could feel the porch leading to the driveway but sensed the darkness closing in. Behind her, it no longer felt like just a monster. It felt like a storm, wild and relentless. Stumbling, she pushed herself harder as she reached the driveway, glancing back just in time to see the creature lift itself off the steps with unnatural grace. Shadows darted with it, choreographed as it glided through the night, its features split between predator and feasted prey. "Why are you doing this?" she screamed into the night, fueled by desperation, hoping for a glimmer of compassion from this hungry beast. "Because you are afraid," it sneered, the sharpness of its voice digging into her mind, making her feel small and powerless. "That is the sweetest dish of all." Panic surged through her heart. Its words echoed with the truth she refused to accept. It thrived on her fear. She glanced towards the woods that hugged the edge of the property, dense shadows inviting refuge, but was it worth the risk? The choice gnawed at her instincts. The Aswang was closing in, a phantom flickering in and out of perception. Just a few steps away from darkness it hissed, tantalizing, testing her firmness. "Fight," she whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the knife in her grasp, steel against her trembling palm. And then she made up her mind. Without thinking, she dashed right toward the trees, breath coming in short bursts, determined to hide. But as she plunged into the dark canopy, she realized the sunken weight of her choice. The forest had secrets, shadows that could swallow her whole. The Aswang was right behind her, its laughter trailing like a funeral dirge. Here in this maze of roots and branches, she felt it lose her momentarily, the sounds of pursuit muffled. Maybe she had found hope. Maybe she could slip through its grasp, but still, she remembered the knife. By entering the wilds, she surrendered her one measure of protection. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her, roots snagging her feet, pulling her down. She fell, panic blooming as she realized she was trapped, myriad eyes watching from the darkness beyond. Was this real salvation, or a deeper trap she had just dug for herself? As she fought to free her legs, the laughter echoed louder, aligning the forest's whispers with a sinister promise. Yet a flicker of resolve continued to spark deep within her as the shadows converged. And in that moment, in her struggle, she yelled out defiantly into the darkness, "I won't let you take me." But as the roots tightened around her, she feared that perhaps this was not a battle she might win. What other horrors lurked in the woods? Would she ever escape the clutches of the Aswang? The breath of doom was closer than ever. Roots coiled tighter around Sarah's ankles, like skeletal fingers pulling her into the earth. Panic surged, hot and electric, as she struggled to break free. Behind her, the Aswang's snarls echoed in the darkness, a chilling reminder that time was quickly running out. Every pulse of her heart matched the rhythm of the creature's approaching footsteps. Such determination! It called out, its mocking tone reverberating through the trees. But you cannot escape your fears. They will consume you. She gritted her teeth, refusing to believe it. With frantic effort, she contorted her body, twisting and turning. The roots scratched at her skin, and dirt flew in every direction. For a breath-holding second, she thought she felt something shift. Maybe, just maybe, she had a chance to wiggle free. "Let go," she shouted, voice raw and trembling. The knife hung loosely from her wrist, but she couldn't reach it, couldn't use it like she wanted. The creature's laughter soared into shrill crescendos, making her throat tighten. "You're already trapped, little bird," it sang, slinking closer. The haze of fear thickened around her, pulling her down into despair. Why fight against what is meant to be? Summoning every ounce of strength left in her fragile body, she used her arms to claw at the ground, pushing against the earth. Each movement felt like grasping at threads in a storm. She could feel the roots start to loosen, a little victory against the chatter in her head, against the Aswang's words whispering through the trees. "You think you can win?" it hissed, now only a few feet away. "You can't hide from your own nightmares." But she wasn't hiding. She was fighting, and she was going to survive. With a sudden heave, she forced her legs free, pain shooting through her limbs as she tumbled out of the grasping roots. Breathing heavily, she scrambled to her feet just as the night erupted with the Aswang's furious scream. "It runs, like the coward it is." Without looking back, she dashed deeper into the woods, the knife clutched like a lifeline in her hand. Trees loomed like giants, their thick branches clawing at her, but she surged forward. Fear struck again, an echo of the creature taunted her from the shadows. "You think you're safe here?" Branches cracked and crunched underfoot, and she quickened her pace. The darkness wrapped around her like a velvet glove, thick and tangible. In her panic, she spotted a narrow path, barely visible, winding deeper into the heart of the woods. Without hesitation, she veered onto the path, a desperate gamble. Could it lead to safety or further into peril? The pulse in her veins screamed for rest, but the Aswang's breaths echoed behind her, dampening the light of hope as she sprinted. She remembered the legends told about creatures of the night. If only she could find a way to turn their power against them, she might have a fighting chance. But the sinister laughter bounced off the trees, sending shivers down her spine. "There's no escape," it shrieked. "You are mine." What awaited her at the end of the path? A chance for survival, or the monstrous grip of the creature closing in tighter? Suddenly, Sarah stumbled into a clearing lit by a shimmering moon, revealing ancient symbols etched into stones. A gasp escaped her lips, a strange power pulsed in the air. Her heart raced with possibility. Could this be the key to her escape? With the Aswang's cries getting louder and closer, she felt the weight of panic clawing at her throat. She had to act. The knife in her grip was no longer just a means of defense. It was a beacon of defiance. But what could she do in this mysterious clearing? Could she harness the energy of the symbols to fight back? The realization hit her like a lightning bolt. The Aswang's laughter mingled with the night, reminding her that time was slipping away. What would she unleash when she tried? And if she did, would the Aswang be the one screaming in fury? Was this the moment she had been fighting for? Met with an eerie silence punctuated by the deep laughter of her pursuer, the moment stretched thin just as. Felt like her fate was sealed once more. The air tingled with strange energy as Sarah stepped closer to the symbols. The moon illuminated the markings, casting shadows that danced around her, almost alive. Each pulse of her heartbeat seemed to sync with the rhythm of ancient power, thrumming beneath her feet. The Aswang's snarls echoed, a grim reminder that she had mere moments to act. "Do it, Sarah," she whispered to herself, fingers tightening around the handle of the knife. It was no longer just a weapon. It became her talisman, her connection to the stories of those who fought back. Desperation clawed at her throat. She could feel the heat of the creature's breath creeping up behind her. It was a hum of decay, a stench of rot that threatened to suffocate her. "You think you have power?" The Aswang taunted from the shadows, its voice dripping with malice. "You are nothing against the night." But in that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of something burn inside her, an ember ignited by fear transforming into fury. She stepped into the circle of stones, feeling their coldness seep into her bones. The engraved symbols glinted under the moonlight, and casting a glance over her shoulder, she saw a dark figure slinking forward. She had to act, and she had to do it now. Summoning all the strength and hope she could muster, she raised the knife high above her head, feeling its weight shift as if the ancient symbols called to it. "I will not be your prey," she shouted, her voice strong despite the terror that engulfed her. With a cry resonating from the depths of her soul, she plunged the blade into the earth at the center of the symbols. A surge of energy burst forth, brilliant and blinding. It wrapped around her like a protective veil, coursing through her veins, filling the air with a vibrant light that chased away the shadows. For a moment, everything froze. The Aswang paused, its snarls turned into deep hisses, shock etched across its ghastly face. "What is this?" it snarled, eyes wide with disbelief. But before it could retaliate, the symbols activated, glowing fiercely, echoing the heartbeat of the forest. The ground trembled as roots rose from the earth, spiraling around the creature. Desperate and furious, the Aswang clawed at the air, trying to break free, but the very earth that it had once controlled now turned against it. Sarah's heart raced in tandem with the pulsing symbols. This was their power, and she was harnessing it at last. "No, you cannot claim this power," she bellowed, her voice cutting through the night, fierce and unyielding. Realizing she could control the energy, she focused on the chaos, directing it towards the creature. The roots tightened, pulling the Aswang downward. Its claws scraped against the ground, leaving deep gashes as it fought. "You'll pay for this," it screeched, unleashing a guttural roar of pure rage. The past echoed back to her, the nightmares it had inflicted, the darkness it spread. Each pulse of energy filled her with clarity. But still, doubt punctured her resolve. If she pushed too hard, would the power consume her? What if she lost control? But as the fear wrestled with her courage, she realized something pivotal. She had been fighting not just for her life, but for her very soul. With one last scream, Sarah tore the knife free from the ground, lifting it high. She poured everything she had into the moment, ready to unleash the power she had called forth. The Aswang, its eyes now wild and frantic, could only stare in horror as the ground beneath it erupted. Time slowed. The world around her shifted into sharp focus. The gleaming knife, the writhing roots, the dark figure that had haunted her. Would this final act of defiance banish the creature forever, or unleash something even more horrifying? The answer loomed before her, and as the forest held its breath, Sarah braced for the impact of what was to come. Would she emerge as a victor, or would the darkness consume her whole? The eruption of the earth sent shockwaves through the ground, tearing apart Sarah's thoughts. She felt the pulsating energy engulf her, wild and uncontrollable, like a raging storm bending to her will. "Hold on, Sarah," she screamed at herself, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she wielded the knife like a lightning rod. The aswang shrieked, its cries intermingling with the howling wind, a sound filled with disbelief and fear. The roots, now vivid and alive, pulled tighter, gnashing against the aswang's filthy skin, dragging it deep into the earth. Her gut twisted. Was this right? Did creatures like this even deserve mercy? The legend said the aswang thrived off fear, feeding on it like a parasite. But was she now feeding a darkness within herself? A sudden sickness swept over her as doubt invaded her heart. This was no time to hesitate. Sarah gritted her teeth, pouring her energy into the knife, channeling every tale of bravery she had ever heard. "I am more than just a girl. I am the voice of my ancestors." With each word, the symbols flared brighter, a kaleidoscope of radiant energy swelling from the ground. The air crackled, and sparks of light danced in the shadows. The trees around them trembled, as if sharing in the struggle. Suddenly, the earth quaked violently. The ground rumbled, and rocks broke loose from their resting places. Sarah struggled to keep her balance, but her determination anchored her. "This ends tonight," she bellowed, letting out everything she had. To her horror, the brutal intensity of her own power sent another jolt of energy coursing through her. It fanned the flames of chaos. A wicked laughter echoed around her, deep and sonorous, shaking her to the core. "You think you can control me?" The aswang's voice slithered through the midnight air like a poisonous fog. As if in answer, the roots doubled their effort, pulling the creature deeper, but it fought back with a frenzy born of desperation. Razor-sharp claws dug into the bark surrounding them, slicing through the ancient trees as it neared escape. "Stay in your prison," she cried out, feeling the knife tremble in her hand. "You have haunted this land for too long." A surge of fear mixed with rage lit a fire in her chest, and she raised the knife higher, ready to strike again. In one final push, she concentrated. The energy rippled around her, a tempest born of her will alone. She felt her body strain against the power, the deafening roar of the aswang sputtering into a frightened yowl. Then, at the crux of her fury, something shifted. The symbols around her flickered, moments from failing entirely. No, no, no. Panic clawed at her throat. She was losing control. Everything could unravel in a heartbeat, leaving her exposed to the very darkness she sought to destroy. But beside her, out of the corner of her eye, a strange shimmer caught her attention, a figure cloaked in mist, shimmering and dark. The ancient spirit that once might defended this land was here. It flickered, pulsating with energy, calling her name in a hopeful whisper. "Seek balance." Sarah let the cycle fulfill itself. The words rang true in her heart. What if it wasn't about destruction? What if there was a way to restore harmony instead? Could the frightful entity she faced be a balance to the light she had summoned? "Wait," she shouted, hearing her own voice reverberate through the chaos. "What if you just let go?" With that declaration, Sarah felt a shift. Her grip on the knife relaxed just enough to channel receding energy. The haunting call of the aswang grew frantic, and for a split second, everything stopped: the light, the darkness, the struggle, breathing heavily. Sarah stood at the edge, not of victory, but of a precarious choice. If she unleashed what she held within, could she banish the aswang, or would she open a door to something worse, something unthinkable? A wave of shadows twisted around the clearing, ominous and foreboding. Was she truly ready for the answer, or would her curiosity lead her to the abyss? The decision loomed, echoing in the depths of the night. What awaited her on the other side? The air around Sarah thickened, pressing in against her chest. Shadows danced and shimmered like restless spirits, mocking her indecision. Her heart raced, pulsing with the rhythm of an impending storm, every beat echoing the choice that lay before her. "Let go." The ancient spirit's whisper filled the clearing, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. Yet her thoughts tangled. What would happen if she surrendered? Would the Aswang break free, or would she unleash something far worse? The Aswang writhed in its confinement, its shrieks a desperate cacophony that mingled with the rustle of leaves. Sarah caught a glimpse of its eyes wild, filled with a terror that pricked her conscience. Something deeper stirred within her. Was this creature once someone's child, feeding off the very fears created by mankind? She could almost hear its plea for survival, twisted within an ancient curse. Balance, she murmured, her voice shaky, wavering like candlelight in the wind. She thought back to the stories her grandmother had told her, of forces intertwined light and dark, fear and courage. Perhaps there was a thread of truth woven through the fabric of folklore, something that connected them all. Sarah. A voice broke through her thoughts, belonging to Mara, her friend who had stumbled into this chaos alongside her. What are you waiting for? Do it. You're stronger than this. Mara's call pierced the fog of doubt enveloping Sarah. Yet it brought a fresh wave of fear of the repercussions, the destruction she might cause with a single misplaced action. The knife in her hand thrummed with energy, a lifeline to the spirit world. It felt alive, responding to her emotions, her fears. Just as she was about to lose herself in despair, she found herself recalling the light, the warmth of hope that could drive out darkness. Okay, she whispered, steadying her breath. I will not fear this. In that moment, Sarah steeled her resolve. With a deep inhalation, she embraced the pulsing energy surrounding her. She would not fight this battle with hatred. She would seek understanding instead. Allowing the knife to fall loosely in her grip, she focused on the shimmering figure of the spirit, letting it guide her. Join me, she called out, her voice stronger now. Help me find a way. Instantly, the energy surged, lifting from her body and enveloping the clearing, cascading like waves of light. The Aswang paused, the frantic cries diminishing as if sensing a shift. The roots tugged at it with newfound gentleness and invitation rather than a prison. Let us end this cycle together, she declared, infusing her words with sincerity and desperation. You are not just a monster. You deserve a chance. We all do. The Aswang froze, its claws stilling against the bark. Sarah dared to look into its eyes again, now echoing something tender beneath the malevolence. The trees around them listened, ancient sentinels bearing witness to this moment. Then came a gasp, a shift in the air. Dark clouds began to swirl above, pulling the spirits of the cursed away from their harrowing fate. With each passing heartbeat, a realm between worlds opened, swirling whispers of lost souls reaching out. Join me in the light. Sarah stepped forward, reaching out, energy sparking like fireworks through her fingertips. Let this be the beginning of something new. As if they were tuning into the same frequency, the Aswang seemed to shimmer, its form shifting. Sarah felt the earth tremble beneath her feet, not as a threat, but as an acknowledgement of the balance they sought. But before they could touch that delicate equilibrium, a blinding flash erupted from the woods, illuminating everything in stark white. Sarah shielded her eyes but was consumed by a whirlwind of energy. It ripped through her thoughts, breaking apart the bond she'd just started to forge, and within that instant of dazzling light, a new danger loomed, whispering promises of greater power. As the light dimmed, Sarah found herself standing alone, the forest silent. The Aswang was gone. But was it truly banished, or had she just opened the door to something even more terrifying? The chilling realization sent a shiver down her spine. Was she truly prepared for the reality of her choice? What had she unleashed into the night? The silence hung heavy, stretching Sarah's thoughts thin. Each breath she took was labored, as if she was steeling herself for an unseen onslaught. The surrounding trees loomed, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers above her. A sense of dread settled like concrete in her stomach. Where are you? She whispered, the question slipping from her lips into the void. The air crackled, as though responding to her call, and every instinct screamed at her to run. Yet she was rooted to the spot, the knife still thrumming in her hand, a silent reminder of the power she now held. That a sudden wind gusted through the clearing, chilling her to the bone. Leaves swirled around her like a tornado of whispers. Come back, she said. Terrified, she might have let the aswang slip through her fingers. Had she truly offered it a chance at redemption, or merely opened the gates to darker horrors? Behind her, Mara stumbled into the clearing, eyes wide with both fear and concern. Sarah, what happened? Fear etched itself across her face as she took in the stillness, the oppressive aura hanging thick around them. I don't know, Sarah stammered, heart racing as she turned to face her friend. It was like we were almost there. But then this light something took the aswang. I think I released it. The wind howled again, now carrying a faint, eerie laughter that sent chills up their spines. Mara looked over her shoulder, fidgeting as shadows crept out from the corners of the clearing. We need to leave. Now. No, Sarah said, shaking her head fiercely. I can't just walk away. If I open the door, we must find out what else is lurking. The air thickened again, pressing around them as if the woods themselves were eavesdropping on their conversation. Mara took a step back, glancing toward the shadowy edges of the clearing. Sarah, you're being reckless. What if you draw it back to us? An uncertain rumble echoed overhead, and Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her feet like a heartbeat. The knife pulsed, urging her forward, calling to something deep within the darkness that loomed ahead. What if this is the moment we change everything? As if answering her, the shadows twisted, coiling together until they formed a vague outline. An unholy figure stepped into focus, an echo of the aswang, its eyes now glowing with a dark hunger that sent an icy thrill down Sarah's spine. It hadn't been banished. It had simply been waiting, watching, hungry. The laughter morphed into a throaty growl that vibrated through the air, sending sparks of fear shooting through Sarah's core. You think you can save me? It hissed, its voice slithering into her thoughts. You think you can bring light to the damned? Sarah took a trembling step back, but she wouldn't give in to fear. I'm not here to save you. I'm here to understand, she shouted, uncertainty clawing at her resolve as shadows encircled her like a cage. Mara grabbed her arm. This isn't right. We need to fight. With a firm grip on the knife, Sarah felt a fleeting moment of clarity. No, I want to fight, not out of hatred. With her voice steady, she called out, You are not a monster. You were created by pain just like all of us. But I'm not afraid of you. I want to hear your story. The aswang paused, uncertainty flickering across its features, a mere glimmer of the once human soul trapped inside. Then, the shadows shifted violently, the resonance of a storm stirring in the skies above as wrathful forces swirled together, threatening to shatter the fragile moment. Sarah's heart pounded. Desperation clawed at her throat. Please show me. The air exploded with energy, pulling at Sarah and Mara, threatening to consume them both. She felt the knife grow hot in her grip, and she understood this wasn't merely a fight against darkness. This was a choice between fear and courage. Hold on, Mara screamed, her voice taut with anxiety. But this wasn't just about survival anymore. What if this was the path to salvation for them all? Clouds churned above them, swirling like a hurricane of shadows. Something darker awaited, something they hadn't anticipated. As the world around her began to fracture, a final question resonated deep within her mind. Would Sarah find the power to break the cycle, or would she be the one to lose everything? And as she stood at the brink of that fragile edge between worlds, something from the depths of the shadows grinned, promising chaos and darkness and revealing that their true nightmare had just begun. The thick veil of darkness tightened around Sarah and Mara as the storm above roared with fury. The shadows twisted, swirling around the aswang, giving it a semblance of power it didn't deserve. Fear coursed through Sarah's veins. The laughter echoed, taunting, reminding her of the stories that had intertwined her fate with this creature. Don't let it get to you, Mara shouted, trying to shake Sarah out of her trance. You have the knife, we can still fight. But Sarah shook her head. This is not just a fight, Mara. This is bigger than us, she said, the conviction in her voice steadying her racing heart. What if fighting only feeds its rage? I want to find a way to end the cycle of fear. The aswang, sensing their hesitation, lunged forward, ethereal shadows snapping at their heels. You came to confront the darkness, but you do not possess the strength to overcome it. It snarled, and with each word, tendrils of darkness whipped around Sarah, constricting like snakes. A story can change everything, she yelled defiantly, holding up the silver knife, its surface glimmering under the tumultuous sky. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, each thrum a bond to ancestral legacies that longed for peace. You're more than a monster. You have a story, don't you? An origin tied to pain just as I do. The creature paused, surprise flickering in its glowing eyes. The flicker offered a brief moment where shadows hesitated. Tell me your truth, Sarah implored, stepping closer, despite the swirling darkness. Let me understand your pain. Only together can we rewrite this narrative. A gust swept through, silencing the storm momentarily. You think I desire understanding? The Aswang hissed, its form flickering. I was betrayed, cast from humanity, cursed to walk this path of despair. Mara's grip tightened around Sarah, fear still evident. No, Sarah is trying to trick you. Don't listen. But Sarah felt her resolve strengthening, the knife burning warmly in her palm. Aren't we all seeking a little light? I'm not afraid of what you are. Let me see you. Her heart thundered, erupting with empathy, igniting fissures in the darkness hovering above them. The Aswang trembled, shadows receding, but the storm responded with wails of wild chaos, furious at her audacity. If you seek my truth, prepare for the horror. It snarled, sinking back into shadows. I will bear it, she shouted, feeling the connection to the knife deepen as if it thrummed with understanding. You are not alone in this. With a guttural roar, the storm exploded, unleashing a hail of dark memories, a torrent of scenes emerging. Sarah saw glimpses of the Aswang, a family once whole, laughter fading into night as betrayal tore them apart, a transformation sparked by grief, a metamorphosis into a monster fueled by hunger. She saw shadows of innocence swallowed, replaced by anguish. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. You were human, she choked on the words, her heart breaking for the creature trapped in its prison of rage. We all suffer, but we can break free. Break free? The Aswang's voice echoed in disbelief. Do you think that's possible? I believe it is, Sarah replied, her voice trembling but resolute. We can rewrite this story. You have the choice to find peace. Let go of the rage. Let go of the hunger. A sudden stillness overwhelmed the storm. The shadows danced cautiously, reflecting the many lives lost, the pain that had gripped the Aswang's heart. Then came the flicker of a smile amidst the fury, tentative, hesitant. It was the lost hope of a being long forgotten. You wish to save me? The Aswang whispered, the growls fading into a confused breath. I wish for you to see you are worthy of love, worthy of redemption, Sarah offered, daring to step further into the light, clutching the knife tightly. Together we can restore balance. In that moment, the storm above calmed, drifting away as a calm wash spread around them. The Aswang trembled, shifting back, the darkness receding with each moment Sarah reached out. She felt the weight of the knife shift into light, morphing in her grasp. The darkness pulled back further, revealing the lost, broken spirit tethered within the Aswang's form. Energy shifted, drawing emotions across Sarah's being, memories of fear, rage, and sorrow intertwining into a tapestry of understanding. Embrace the truth, Sarah urged. The pain that binds you can also free you, can heal you if you let it. The Aswang hesitated as the knife glowed warmly in response to the earnest offer. What if I lose myself in forgiving? Questioned, fear creeping into its voice. What if you reclaim the light you've lost? Sarah replied, heart open and vulnerable, filled with the courage to lead even in the face of overwhelming darkness. And upon that final plea, the knife surged with light, a beacon slicing through the veil of despair. The shimmering energy enveloped the Aswang like a warm embrace, lifting the weight of shadows off its twisted shoulders. In that radiant moment, the shadows imploded, dismantling the Aswang's torment, unearthing its purest spirit. It cried a sound of raw, human vulnerability, its form shimmering as the heaviness lifted. Thank you, It whispered, eyes glistening with tears that shimmered like stars. The darkness fully dissolved, and in its place stood a serene figure, freed from its torment as the final remnants of the aswang faded away. The remnants of its pain transformed into gleaming light. Sarah could feel her heart bloom with warmth, a profound peace sweeping through her. "We did it," Mara gasped, awe spilling into her voice, relief washing over the tension in her shoulders. "Yes." Sarah brushed her fingers against the cool surface of the knife, now returned to harmony. "We changed the story." In that tranquil moment, they stood amidst the woods, feeling the breath of new beginnings. The shadows held tales waiting to be told, the landscape no longer a prison but a promise of understanding and invitation to embrace all that they had feared. As dawn kissed the horizon, Sarah and Mara exchanged a glance, sharing the understanding that both light and dark interwove. They had transformed a tale of fear into one of connection. The bonds forged in bravery had not only changed their fates but also whispered to the very heart of the Aswang, reminding them that within the struggle, there lies the potential for transformation. Together, they stepped forward, ready to walk the path toward a new dawn, leaving behind the echoes of the terror that had once loomed over them. But as they crossed the threshold back to the life they knew, they could not shake that feeling, the pulse of the woods still throbbing, still alive with secrets yet to be discovered. This was just the beginning. Now it's your turn, my awesome friends. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. Let us keep this amazing community growing together.